I'm as clear
We
as I'm
are
going to be.
rolling. Okay, well that's good because the camera is on and we are doing a Tuesday edition of Bid Nerds. Welcome everybody. This is Bid Nerds.
Yay!
Yeehaw, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. My name is John Polink and I'm coming to you live from Las Vegas, right on the Las Vegas Strip, along with my partner Michael Deeb, coming to you from foggy San Francisco.
Oh, wet and rainy.
Good morning, Michael Deeb. Is it raining there?
Oh, it was raining all night last night, and just not like a howling gale or whatever, but just enough wind that all the rain seems like every single drop that hit the house hit the windows.
Yeah. Well, okay.
But,
well, welcome everybody to the Weather Channel. We are not a weather discussion show. This is where you come to nerd out about cars, man.
Yeah.
Cars, man. So we're going to talk about some cars. We do this every Monday through Friday during the 9 o'clock hour. We pick the most interesting cars and Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer to talk about with you guys. We want you guys to tell us what cars you want us to talk about. Sometimes we do that as well. And we'll make some predictions as to what we think these cars will actually sell for when they hit the auction block, or sometimes not sell at all, which is very common. But we keep track, Michael and I. And before we get to the cars of the day, we talk about the cars that we made predictions on yesterday.
Yep.
So how about we go do that? And while we're queuing that up, make sure that you guys at home subscribe, like, hit the share button, let people know that this site exists, that this channel exists. We're here for you guys. We're nerding out with you because you're a nerd. If you're watching this, you're a car nerd. So, bring it. Nerds.
Yep.
There it is. All right. So what happened? What cars did we talk about yesterday? Let's go over those briefly and track our numbers.
Our advice is cloudy with a chance of bad advice. That's for sure. So
do not bank on our numbers because what the hell do we know?
So yesterday we had kind of a promoted star car, and then we had sort of a bid nerd star car. So our promoted star car was the 1980 Porsche 911 Speedster replica. This was done on an SC coupe chassis that they chopped. They decapitated the roof of this thing, and then I can't remember the name of this body shop. I forget. Bob something or other down there in I think South Florida or whatever. He did a pretty spectacular job. The fit and finish, by all accounts, you and I agreed. The panel gaps and the quality of work looked really nice. What's interesting is that somebody spent that much money on an SC drivetrain and chassis to make what is, a pretty rad looking speedster with some sort of, modern liberal thinking along the way. The windshield is authentic. It looks like an early slant nose, but it doesn't have the slats or the boxed rockers. But by all accounts, this was really nice bodywork and paint. It's just that this car doesn't have any power. It's just weird to me that you would have something so flashy that's all show and no go. So it's
modern RWB right there.
Yeah, our bids were turned out to be a little soft because I thought the drivetrain, not having a car that would go fast would hold this back. I underestimated the vanity of South Florida. So I said 35 and you said 34. And this car, JP, take a look since you're on there. Does it say sold? I think this car sold for $45,000, which is really interesting.
45 is crazy. I mean, I will say that look to convert a regular 911 to Speedster. I mean, this would be a great car if you converted this back to look like a normal 911 with the Speedster. But I mean, look, to create a Speedster, a 911 Speedster, not only do you have to have the windshield, but you got to have the doors, you got to have the window glass, you have to have the clamshell, you have the actual top itself, and all the hardware that goes with it. People think that you could just use a cabrio door, but there's no wing window on the Speedster door. So it's like everything's got to change. And it's a lot of work.
It's involved, isn't it? Yeah.
And this
guy
not just
did a
the
great
parts,
job.
but doing it. You need to pull the actual normal sunroof out of a Targa or a regular Cabrio. That frame. I mean, it's all integrated, man. This is an involved project. Someone spent way more than $45,000 worth of body man time to do this. And,
hours of labor are involved, and the parts themselves were probably not cheap.
Yeah.
And then,
when they did this, the parts probably were cheap. I mean, I'm guessing this was done sometime in the 90s. I suspect. I don't know if the ad said. Did it say? Did you notice?
I did it, not that I remember,
Yeah.
JP. And what's interesting is it doesn't seem like there's a lot of wear and tear on the front end. So even if this was done in the 90s, it
Yeah.
wasn't driven much since it was done. So I mean, it still looks like
Well, that's my point. My point is that when
yeah.
you did it, my point is that when this project was done, was that the parts to make a Speedster weren't terribly expensive. There was a time in the 90s you could roll down to the Porsche dealership and order all this stuff from the parts department, and they had it sitting in Stuttgart or wherever in a warehouse with Speedster parts for a 964. So they just but putting them on is a whole other story. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it looks like whenever it was done, it hadn't been driven much since.
No, it looks fresh, like fresh work. So anyways, the car brought a lot more money than we thought. And I believe it sold at that price, but P-Car is really weird. At the close of auction, it takes them a while to process. You might not get an answer as to whether or not the car sold or is going to wind up in the deal tank for almost a couple of hours. And so that's a weird thing with P-Car. You got to speed up your process, guys.
There's a lot of weird things with P-Car. Let me just tell you.
Yeah. So on Bring a Trailer, JP, a car that we thought we were going to look at on Friday, but we actually had the close date wrong. Closed yesterday, and that was the 1980 BMW M1. This is the AHG, the BMW dealership in Germany that did a handful of these studies. And this car was done in traditional BMW motorsport livery. And I will walk out on a limb and say that I believe each one of the handful of cars that this dealership built with the Pro Car style bodywork and the modified tuned engine, they're all different colored paint jobs, and they're all famous racing car liveries. I really overestimated on this car. I feel like for the price that we were looking at $475,000 yesterday, that you could get a really nice standard M1, and that an AHG should command a high premium. So I said 750. You tacked a little more bearishly underneath me at 650. This car only made another $25,000 in the final hour at close and sold for the price, which means the reserve is set somewhere in the mid to high 400s. So congratulations to the new owner, and apparently the seller kind of expected it. So I mean, I really got that wrong. Think about this, JP. Toyota made the LFA with the V10. And they made like 25 of the Nürburgring editions, right? So they made like, I don't know, 400 or 500 LFAs, and then another 25 or 50 Nürburgring editions that had like bodywork and tuning. Those Nürburgrings are bringing $1 million now, wow. and LFAs are bringing $150,000 over sticker. How come BMW can't sell the M1 for a premium? Like, I mean, again, this is way over what they were in the 80s, but I'm surprised that an M1 tuned special edition isn't like closer to $1 million by now, like with all the reputation that BMW has, especially in motorsports. So anyways, moving on.
I think it's kind of like, the Lamborghini Countach versus the Jalpa or Yalpa or however you pronounce it. I mean, I think the Yalpa is a better looking car. It came out a little too soon and didn't have poster, I mean, look, when we were in the 80s, I don't remember this car. I remember finding out about this car in the 90s, but not in the 80s, whereas the Lamborghinis were everywhere. So somewhere along the line, it just didn't capture that public flair, and they didn't make very many of these, right? I mean, so
no, not at all.
Yeah, so it's definitely a super enthusiast car, and unlike like the F40, which of course is an enthusiast car, but it's also iconic at the same time. This car just never made iconic status, even though I agree with you, it should have.
I don't know how to quantify it, but those 7 cars that were actually constructed at Lamborghini probably are the cream of the crop with regards to any of the production M1s, including the pro cars themselves, the race cars. But anyway, we wound up, we wanted to pay a little homage to BMW. So the next couple of cars were all BMWs. On P-Car, we looked at a 2007 550i sedan. This had the sport package, including the manual transmission. I said $19,000. You said $17,000. And JP, you were $250 off a Yahtzee. Again, you just another close brush with a Yahtzee. That car sold at $17,250. You won that one.
A lot of car for 17 grand.
We also looked on Cars and Bids at a car you and I both would have fought over. I saw it first. No, I saw it first. 2007 BMW 328i wagon. This guy, JP, we need to meet the guy, the seller of this car, if he's the one that did all the work, or whoever did. M3 wheels, BMW Sport Package suspension, BMW Sport Package seats and steering wheel and shifter. and then they blacked out the grill. This car is cool. I really like it.
Yeah.
It was normally aspirated, manual transmission, rear wheel drive, wagon, and that came out to like one of just a handful, according to Doug DeMiro. I said 21, you said 23, and literally busted yourself for betting the over. This car sold for just $18,000, so really well bought. Congratulations to the new owner. You have a car cool enough to hang out with the bid nerds, that's for sure. And then our final car of the day was a 97 BMW M3. This is an E36 coupe, JP. No nonsense. Bright blue metallic, manual transmission, reasonable miles, like under 80,000 miles. And again, the prices are soft. I said 25, you said 21. And you won this one because this car sold for $17,750. And I don't know, maybe Bid Nerds thinks highly of BMW than the BMW community, because I think that car was also well bought.
Well, maybe someone can say out there, if you go back and listen to the show yesterday, I think I did say that this one was going to be under that. I thought I'd be surprised if it went over 20, but I wanted to be closer just to beat the spread in case it did get up a little bit. E36s, it's going to be a while till they're really worth something. I mean, a lightweight or something super special might bring some big money, but E36s were too busted for too long. They are coming back, and clean ones like this deserve to bring more money, but they're just not there yet.
But that's exactly my point. If you go on right now, you could probably find 24 E36 M3 coupes for sale, but I think it'll be very difficult to find a manual, not modified, sub 100,000 mile car that's clean, that looks like it has original paint. And so
especially like reasons, you pointed out with those dove colored Vaders, those things just get whooped.
Right. And so I just feel like I would expect that those cars would start to command a premium, and I agree with you, they will at some point, but it doesn't seem to be there. Even on Bring a Trailer, that car didn't even make 20 grand. That's a head scratcher to me.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Maybe if we had done the photographs, and the video and wrote their copy for them.
It's funny how each one of these platforms has kind of their own, I don't know, is it ethos or, approach to photos and stuff like that. I mean, photos sell cars. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And some of these websites just don't care. Some of them say they care, but it's like, really, there's something to be said to make sure that your photo isn't too slick. Like, you don't want a photo that's clearly, covering up something, which you see on things like Craigslist or, when you're searching around for cars on the internet, or car dealerships do it all the time, where they take some amazing photos, but you can't really even tell what color the damn car is. And when you look closely and you go out and see the car, you're like, those photos didn't represent the car at all. But it's not even, go ahead.
Did you see our Subaru today? Did you look at the photos of those? The bucket of photos?
Well, yeah, we'll certainly get to that.
Oh my god.
Yeah. He's teasing the Subaru here. There's some. Sometimes you gotta wonder how certain stuff even gets past this. It's not like when we say it all the time. Bring a Trailer is the big boy. That's the juggernaut. Yeah. That's where everybody wants to sell their cars, because they sell tons of them, and your car will probably bring the most money there. But it's actually kind of difficult. They're very stringent, and they do pay attention to the photos, and they do pay attention to all kinds of details, at least sometimes.
Not the Subaru.
But then Bring It, Cars and Bids doesn't seem to care at all, and it's easier to get on there. And then PCAR says they care, but it's just silly. It's a bunch. I mean, the photos that are on PCAR typically are awful, and so they might be honest, but to a fault, literally.
Right.
So, anyways, you got to bring romance, because let's face it, you're buying a classic car, you're buying something for an enthusiast. You're buying more than just nuts and bolts and some metal. You're buying a feeling. You're buying whatever it is that gets you excited about that car is more than just the numbers under the hood.
Exactly. I want to add to that. When you're photographing your car, you are now selling the fantasy of driving that car, and so you have to make it look as sexy as you can, and and those are the right words, I think.
But and there is truth that you don't want to misrepresent. So you don't want to Photoshop a dent out or not show a big scratch or an oil leak or something like that. That's used car lot type stuff. That's not what we're talking about. But you do the hero shots for your ad should be striking, especially because you get one thumbnail when people are cruising through all these ads. There's going to be that one photo. What's that one photo that's going to get them to click on everything else? That's the big one. So there it is. There's our little rant about photography.
Nice.
And we
That's a
talked
good one.
about yesterday's cars. Let's get to today's cars. You're here at Bid Nerds, your daily nerd out on the most interesting cars on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. So let's get to today's cars on Cars and Bids and Bring a Trailer. What do we got today? Right. The car that you probably saw in the thumbnail was a Fox Body. Fox Body!
Yeah. High school.
Yeah.
Sing from the top of the mountain.
Let's
do my water.
see it. Yeah. He's doing a little musical number there for you. Yes, there's a little music in the show each and every evening. What are we going to learn about this 1989 Fox Body?
JP, look at that. Woo. I mean, does that not just scream senior year? Look at that, man.
I did graduate in 1989. This was the car that everybody wanted. Yeah.
Ford Mustang GT 5-liter. This example out of Columbus, Ohio has just 6,700 miles, which I would say if that was one of JP's 6 cars, you'd still put 6,700 miles in 6 months on this thing.
Oh, hell yeah.
The only thing about this car I don't like, JP, I have to just go straight to it. This one has, unfortunately, a 4-speed automatic transmission, but otherwise, white with the sort of gray lower cladding. The GTs had these like little winglets ahead of the front and rear wheels and sort of an integrated boxed out rear spoiler that came down the hatchback. I remember these cloth seats, JP, so much.
Yeah.
Looking at just exactly. You could totally smell them. And the fit and finish on these cars is terrible. I mean, they not only were they done in Detroit at a time when, it seemed like quality control was like a joke, but like they look like they were done by blind people. I mean, these things are just snapped together badly, and then they get like almost zero inspection. They just roll them onto a truck and down to the dealer, and they were just selling these cars like hotcakes. I mean, I remember every cool kid. This is how you could tell if a kid that you knew was spoiled, because his parents bought him a Mustang. I mean, that was just like, that was it. Like you think, oh, he's pretty humble. And they're like, wait, that guy's got a brand new Ford Mustang and he's in high school.
Yeah.
It's
usually my dad owns a dealership. It's that kid.
Man.
Oh, look at that interior.
I remember just judging the heck out of kids that I knew. I was like, oh, this kid's fucking loaded. He doesn't have to go to work. He doesn't have to get good grades. He's going to inherit. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's so funny how perception shades. I thought that this was like the lap of luxury that your parents bought you a Mustang, and that there was no way I was getting.
Well, I mean, Ken Griffey and, Vanilla Ice, and I think all the Ices had one of these. I mean, look, with the automatic, it's a total drag, but this is one of the few cars that you can still have fun in. I mean, you're going to make more donuts than Dunkin' with this thing. It is just all kinds of fun. You're going to roast the tires. Oh, man. I want this car.
But at 6,700 miles, and this car's selling for over original sticker, right? So we I don't know what this car costs brand new. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Boom, 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 boom. No, I can't see the window sticker. But anyways, I personally don't think the guy who buys this car is actually going to drive it at 700 miles and in like essentially mint condition. I think this car does the show circuit. Somebody's going to buy this car and pull up a lawn chair and open a 6-pack of beer and sit there and see if he gets a trophy every other Sunday in the summer in Scottsdale or Phoenix or wherever, I don't
know. I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent. I think there's two and I think that's why this car may find some pretty big success today, is because there are two distinct audiences that want this car. There is that guy, that Mustang boomer guy, the boomer that wants this thing, right? But the boomer wasn't in high school when this car was popular. The boomer had kids in high school when this car was popular. So So this is one of those rare cars, kind of like 911s, that the 40-something-year-old guy, the Gen Xer, is actually going to be competing with the boomers to get. And, I kind of feel like most of the boomers, if they wanted one of these, they probably already have one. They probably have had one since then. Whereas the Gen Xer or the Gen Yer, the guy that, the 90s kids also are looking at these cars going, they're seeing the nostalgia, and nostalgia is what sells. So I think it's like if a DWA guy, got a hold of this thing, it's going to get driven, and you could put 30,000, 40,000 miles on it, and it's still probably going to be worth whatever you pay for it.
But if he's a Gen Xer, or if he's a real DWA guy, I would think that he'd pass on this one because it doesn't have a stick.
Yeah, there is that. That's a very good point. The lack of a stick is a big thing. So does that just relegate this to a collector car?
For me, it does.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it's going to go to a pleated pants audience, and it'll sit there and languish being driven from show to show, and nobody will ever rev it to redline. I just don't think that's gonna happen.
I don't know. I mean, have you ever driven one of these automatic ones?
Not really.
You know me. Come on, you know I'm a manual car guy. But I will tell you, having owned an automatic one for a short amount of time and got to drive it around for a while, it was just stupid fun. It was just stupid.
That's funny.
You know. So again, it's not the only car. It's not one of these cars. It's like, okay, I'm going to get one car and this is going to be it. It's just going to be. It's an addition to a bunch of other nostalgic stuff. And I don't know, this thing, as clean as it is, and I'm always an advocate for cars that are a little bit dirty and that you don't have to worry about them. But this thing's so cheap that I just feel like, man, you could buy this, have fun, and throw it away wet, and who cares?
So one of the comments wrote that if this car was a manual, it would be already at $30,000. That was like with 2 days to go.
Yeah,
and I agree. I actually would agree because it's so clean and it's a GT and it's really low miles. I mean, that's ridiculously low miles. But JP,
and Ken Griffey Jr. doesn't have anything to do, and he probably wants to buy it back. Him and MC Hammer might fight over it.
You're so funny. I think the automatic's going to hold it back, so I'm going to say $19,000, and it's really, that's an emotional thing. I don't know. I mean, maybe it brings more because the Boomer will pay for it, but because it doesn't have a stick, I'm going to say 19. Where are you at?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. Again, I'm not saying that this car is worth all the money. I'm just saying that because it's not much money, I think the potential for it being driven is higher than maybe usual. But I do agree with you. I do agree with you that for sure the automatic transmission is holding it back by probably 100% value. So whatever this lands at, I think it would go for 100% more. So I think it would go for twice as much.
I would say.
Well, you just said it. But the comments are saying it would go for $30,000 or more, and it's only at 15. So that's 100% increase. And I agree with that. I think I think absolutely this is a $30,000 car with a manual. But as you are soft on it, I'm actually going to be even more soft on it. I'm going to go 17. I think it finds a few more bids, a couple $1,000 more, and then it's going to sit there.
Interesting. Again, we're looking at a car that is on Bring a Trailer, on Bring a Trailer with 14 bids on it already. So JP, that's a pretty soft bid. Okay, cool. All right, let's
automatic's going to kill it though. I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump over and take a look. Let's go over to visit Doug at Cars and Bids, and we have, and I think this is the first time I've seen one in the secondary market, a 2020 Cadillac CT6 V, and this car employs the Blackwing V8 that everybody seems to talk about in hushed tones. That is so popular, Cadillac won't produce any of them because this car, before it went into production, was allegedly sold out. On the Cadillac website, they said these cars are sold out. Don't show any interest. We're not going to be able to promise you one. They're all spoken for. And then as I saw this car come on to Cars and Bids with 1,600 miles, I did a quick search on Auto Trader, and there's at least a half dozen of these things brand new sitting on dealers' showrooms available and discounted. So I don't really understand what the bean counters at GM are doing. They baffle me in all of my passion for car business. I don't understand. If this car is so popular, why not make more of them? They are now bringing a CT5V and a CT4V that allegedly have different versions of the Blackwing motor. But this one has a 4.2-liter turbocharged V8 twin turbo. It has a 10-speed automatic. It makes 550 horsepower. And JP, if you're sitting down, don't fall over, 640 pound-feet of torque, which I think is enough to actually move the apartment building you and Rochelle live in. That is a ton of torque. Anyways, just 1,500 miles. Again, let's have Moncton, Maryland. There you go. It's running right now at JP. Let me read it to you. 61,500. The MSRP on these cars was around $95,000 before options. This was a six-figure car. 23 bids though. A lot of action. 2.5 hours to go. Does this move the needle for you, or is it just another GM overly priced, overly fake luxury, whatever?
I mean, this was a six-figure car. I mean, okay.
Yeah, six-figure Cadillac.
Jeez,
yeah, I know, right?
Again, cars that are this new, it always just makes me shake my head when you see them on these auction sites, and it seems like that happens more often on Cars and Bids than it does on BAT. Do you see that? Is that just me? Am I seeing that wrong?
It is a little strange, but this is their, I mean, this is the gold standard for American performance and luxury. outside of a Tesla, this is as fast as you can get in a domestic car, I think. I mean, being in a sports car.
I don't dislike this car at all. I actually think it's pretty neat, and you got to commend General Motors for making it because it's so rare that American companies take any chances. But six figures, and this whole Blackwing thing that you're talking about and all that stuff, none of it makes any sense to me. I mean, this car is going to depreciate, but so do Mercedes. I mean, you think about it, you buy an S-Class and it's going to be worth half as much. So this market in general, anyone who's looking at going out and spending six figures on a brand new luxury sedan, I don't understand that person at all. I just don't get that mentality. So, to a certain extent, I mean, I'm sure you get this all the time, Deep, and it's, people say, hey, what car should I buy? And if you know them and they're an enthusiast, they're not going to ask you that question. So the people that ask you that question aren't car people. So I always tell people, I'm like, lease something. And they go, oh, no, that's a bad deal. You're not going to have everything. It's like, yeah, but you don't care. Go get a Jetta or go get an Accord or whatever has the best warranty and the lowest payment and has all the buttons that you want. Just get that, and then you have a fixed cost per month, and at the end of it, you just turn it in for another one, right? Like Volkswagen Sign Then Drive is great. They're not paying us to say this, but you don't pay anything. You just go in there, you sign a thing, and you start making payments, and you give the car back. That's the way a normal person should do it. If you're a lunatic and you want to waste money like us, you buy classic cars. And then there's people that are like, I'm going to do that same thing that Jetta kid's going to do, but I'm going to do it with a luxury car, and I'm just going to buy a $150,000 car and just pay the note and trade it in at the end. And that's what moves that area, I guess. It's the only thing I can think of. But
it's the junior vice president with a little bit of disposable income that wants to arrive in style. It's part of his facade, his personality.
You got to have the look, the latest thing.
What's funny is those guys always claim to be car guys, and they're not. They're just
somebody's I'm a huge car guy, and you look in their garage and it's all like 2020 or 2019 stuff. It's like you're not a car person at all. A 10-speed automatic transmission is pretty interesting. I'm pretty sure there's an Ace playing card between the spokes that's making all the exhaust noise for it. I mean, I just love the idea of saying, my car, I drive a 10-speed.
Totally.
Really? Totally. So that is kind of fun. I don't know what this thing's worth. What do you think it's going to land at? I mean, again, this is a CarMax car. What are we doing here?
Yeah. JP, all-wheel drive, rear-wheel steering, MagnaRide control, which means it's got magnetological shock absorbers, whatever they are, Brembo brakes, and a limited slip difference. I mean, they threw everything at this car. That being said, without further ado, I believe this car is going to peter out. It was on 18 bids at 57 last night. I wrote 75, but it's at 61 right now, which only enforces that my 75 is correct. So I'm going to leave it there. $75,000, JP, and it sells because, man, I don't know the Carfax would give you 75 for this heap.
Right? Yeah, I'll go 70. I mean, I actually don't think it's going to break 70. I think it's going to probably be somewhere in the 60s. My guess maybe 68 or 69 or whatever, but I'll say 70 just for the bit.
That's a good one. All right, so 70 is you.
Is it worth that? I guess. I mean, if you want this type of car, if you want the latest whiz-bang stuff for $70,000, I mean, it's probably a pretty good value. If it was six figures new, someone else $8,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on it.
This car's got 1,500 miles, and the warranty's probably been going for 6 months.
Yeah.
Or you could buy a brand new one in the 80s, a $95,000 car in the 80s, because they're discounting them off the new car lots to get rid of them. So I don't know.
Or you could wait 2 years and get one for $49,000. I mean, these are going to be worthless very soon.
Right.
But whatever. Hey, anybody need a boat anchor? Here's a very fast one. You can pull your boat. You could pull your boat across the Atlantic by driving this across the bottom of the seafloor. 600 pounds of torque, man. That's a lot of torque.
That is a lot of torque.
You could go to Dubai and get yourself all the fuel you'll need. Okay, what's the next car here today? We're going a little low. We're a little slow.
All right, man. Let's speed things up with a Porsche. Let's go to Bring a Trailer and look at a 1980 Porsche 911 SC Weissach Coupe. Very interesting car.
Hey, hold on. Yeah, we're not supposed to swear on YouTube. Don't do that.
This car is out of Englewood, Florida, and shows just 61,000 miles. JP, I had to look. So I believe the Weissach Coupe came in 2 different colors. So this is the platinum metallic paint. And then they did another one that they call a metallic black, but it has enough gold flake in it that in the sun, it looks almost like it's a dark, dark, dark brown metallic. And I have to say, I prefer the darker shade on the car. This one looks, by all accounts, to be in good condition, but there is some wear and tear evident if you look, at the interior. The driver's seat, for sake of argument, has a lot of creases in it and stuff like that, and doesn't look particularly clean. The Weissachs were really just a cosmetic upgrade. So you've got wheels that are color matched. They have the platinum gold on the pedals of the Fuchs. You've got this like light beige interior with red piping and red carpets. And Weissach is where Porsche's motorsport department is, and yet there's nothing really motorsport on this car. I tend to, by all accounts, usually like most of the special editions that Porsche makes, but this one commanding a premium is sort of baffling to me because it's little more than a paint job and a Carrera wing that was slightly ahead of its time. So, or actually it's the whale tail spoiler, which is really cool, the Carrera turbo wing. But anyways, JP, a Weissach coupe, SCs are on the move. They're definitely trending in the right direction. Coupes especially. These are great drivetrains that I know you are really big on. I've never owned one, so I don't brag about them with the same passion that you do because I've never fallen in love with one. To me, they seem underpowered because I've got a Carrera. But this is a
that wasn't a brag or nothing.
Yeah, these are.
I've got a Carrera.
But these
sound like the bad guy in '80s movies. I got a Porsche 911 with a quadraphonic Blaupunkt.
I got a Porsche. It's my new Porsche.
You can check out my Porsche, yo.
Oh my God. So anyways, dude, the guy at American Pickers, they pulled out a 356 and the guy at American Pickers said Porsche like 20 times. And I almost broke my own television. So anyways, here we go. This car is at $32,000, but these tend to bring, these are SCs that can climb into the 60s if they're really nice. So JP, what do you think about this car?
Yeah,
Are you a fan of the Weissach coupe?
Weissach, you got us. We're gonna get demonetized. Stop yes. German swearing. I'm sure I'm sure that means something horrible in another language. I'm
sure.
The first 911 I believe I ever drove was a Weissach. My general manager, I cleaned cars the summer after high school at a Porsche, Nissan, and Volkswagen dealership, and the general manager drove one of those black ones, and that was like, oh my God, 911. Of course I drooled all over his car. I would always wash it for him anytime he wanted. He'd always let me drive it. He was a super cool guy. Wish I could remember.
That's rad.
But you're right. It's just a color combo, and the thing is, it's like it's not even a good one. This one, like his black one had that black, and I think the interior was like, I want to say it was like a light gray of some sort, like a bisque or something with maybe a black dash or whatever. And it did. I do remember having the piping. But that said, I mean, this color is just. I mean, Porsche tries to get all fancy, and they do that to this day, right? They call colors that are just normal colors. They make them some. This is gold, guys. It's just a gold car, which is a horrible color for a 911, and you can see it's American height, so it looks like it's a Safari. I mean, look at how high off the ground this thing is. You just put some knobby tires on that without lifting it. Look at that thing, man.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, I've got a sports car with 19 inches of ground clearance.
Holy shit. You could totally put 265, knobby BF Goodrich mutters on that sucker and have some fun. But no, I mean, this is a fantastic car. I think the color is terrible, and I wouldn't. I mean, this is definitely not a car that would be on my list at all. I would only buy it if it was a value because gross. The beige interior with the beige dash and the red carpeting.
Piping and red carpet.
The piping. It's just all these things are just so wrong. But air-cooled coupes are going in the 50s now. It's not uncommon for a clean one. And this one, what's the mileage on this car? I'm sure you said it, but I've already forgotten.
61,000 miles out of Florida.
I mean, that's low miles. I mean, that's the other downside of this thing is it is from Florida. That is something you have to, that it's a concern. I don't know. It's a beautiful car. It's got to be fun to drive. Yes, the SC engine has less power than the Carrera, but kind of like the 2.7 before the 3-liter. It's just it revs a little faster and it feels a little hoppier. The Carrera feels like it takes you a little while to get there. When it does, you find the power, but in the meantime, meantime. I don't know. I love the SC. It's a great platform to just kind of like. There's so many SCs that you don't have to feel bad about taking one and modding the hell out of it and getting making it lightweight. Talk to our friend Dwayne Wick, who's all about making cars lightweight. The SC is the perfect platform to lightweight. This is obviously not one that you could do that because it is a special edition one. The air conditioning unit, all that stuff is going to be really heavy, but you can't remove it because it's a Weissach. So
Weissach.
It's just, man, Ferdinand is like
rolling over in his grave.
Yeah, he was buddies with Hitler. Okay, so anyways, let's. What do you think this car is going to actually go for when this thing hits the auction?
So JP, I wrote down $52,000, and it was great being on the air with you while it lasted.
Yeah, right. We were so deplatformed. Hey, Alex Jones, can we do a show about cars on your network?
We know how to scream. Yeah.
So 2 hours to go. I mean, it's got how many bids does this thing have?
It had 21 last night. Let me read it to you again. It is at scroll 22 bits.
I mean, that's $52,000 is a long way to go from 32. But unlike most cars, Porsches in particular, the air-cooled stuff, the old stuff, almost nine times out of 10, all the action happens in the last 10 minutes, sometimes 5 minutes. So you could easily see cars double in the last 5 minutes. There's a discussion on one of the Porsche sites on Facebook, one of the Porsche groups that I follow last night, and people were lamenting how some particular car, and I don't even know what the hell it was, some air-cooled car was like sitting at $22,000 with 2 days to go, and all these people are like, "Oh my gosh, look, the values of Porsches are dumping." Nobody, it's like,
oh my god,
have you ever been on an auction site? What are you guys talking about? What? So it's just people are idiots. I'm with you. My gut was to say under you because that is such a far way to go. But it's a Weissach and it is a coupe. It has low miles. I'm gonna go over. You said what? 52?
Yeah. He's got the sugar scoops sitting there.
He's got the scoops, the original scoops going with it.
He's got all the service binders and stuff. And
55 going over.
Yeah, the AC looks like it works.
I'll even say I think this car could hit 60. I think it's possible. You can see almost doubling from here.
Personally, JP, when I look at the wear and tear on the driver's seat and the carpets, this car's been driven and it doesn't look like it was babied. It just looked like it was enjoyed. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think that prevents this one from being a $60,000 one. If this car hits 60, I'll eat crow tomorrow on air.
I mean, I think there's pretty solid evidence of repaint on some of these photos too.
So we'll see.
So I'm not going to go back and look at the. Well, okay, look.
Give me your bid again, JP. 55.
55. Yeah, I think this car has been repainted or at least partially repainted. So, and the fact that it's from Florida, so we talked about how you can smell that Mustang and all its newness. I could tell you what this car smells like, and it ain't good. So you got to get this car to a dry climate, or it's gonna be all that DNA from 1985 is gonna waft out of the carpet. So okay, pull the carpet and save it. All right, what's the next car? Let's get to the end of this show here. We're really we're nose diving on this one. We are dropping a nerd turd that is
on everybody,
on everything, and everyone today.
Wait till we get to the Subaru. All right, but first, let's look on Break a Trailer. We're just going to jump on over to this 2004 Chevrolet Corvette Z06 Commemorative Edition. This is a 20,000 mile example, JP, and it is offered to us out of Sycamore, Illinois. These cars came with one significant option, and I don't understand why Corvette just didn't put it on all of them. But the front hood was offered in carbon fiber. And when you look at a one that has it and hasn't and doesn't have it, they look identical. It's one of the dumbest things GM has ever done. Just put the carbon hood on it, or if you offer the carbon hood, it should look special. But they look identical, so you just have to find out from the build or lift up the hood to see if it's carbon, and you save maybe 3 pounds over the front axle. I mean, like, who gives a rat's? It's just really dumb. But back in 2004, 400 normally aspirated horsepower out of a 5.7 liter V8 that was rear wheel drive and a little bit lighter weight. This was one of the top performing cars available in the marketplace back in the day. This was compared to V12 Ferraris because the V8 Ferraris weren't fast enough to keep up with this thing. So there you go, JP. 400 horsepower, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, just 20,000 miles. The commemorative Z06s do bring a small premium, and it's our job to guess how unreasonably high that is. So what do you think? What do you think of this Corvette muscle car?
Look at the buttons in this dashboard, man. It was 2004 General Motors. Whoever, I mean, there needs to be, what is it, the Nuremberg trials or whatever for war crimes? There needs to be trials for like car crimes against humanity.
Oh, man.
Fake air vents and buttons like this are just like, this is, oh God, guys.
How about the shit handle above the passenger seat? Look at that handle. It's so far away. You would be pulled out of your seat to get your hands up there.
Yeah, and if you're holding on to that means your face is like 3 feet away from the airbag that is going to go off when this guy crashes into a streetlight. I mean, this thing is so stupid. And the red carpets down there, I mean, did the first version...
Is that a Weissach? Yeah, it's a Weissach.
No, I think it's. I think if you flip that over, it's it's a Confederate flag. I'm pretty sure that was from the factory. I don't know. Maybe that was on a different commemorative edition. No, you know what? This car, we were nerd turding all over it, turd nerding, whatever. I'm lisdextic. This car's so much fun. These cars are such a good time. I don't want one, but I wouldn't. You know what they say, kick one out of bed. I mean, this thing is. Look, it's just. You can't help but have a good time in something with this much power in a stick. It's not going to handle as well as any of the cars that we like, but who cares? You can, I mean, you go out to a track day and you got these numbskulls that go out there with a car like this and they just mob in the straight line. They slam on the brakes before the corner and they, and then they smash on it again. And the whole time you're working your ass off trying to get your little 27911 to go, to catch up. And then you get around them in the corners and then they pass by you in the straightaways and then you find them in the corner. I mean, that's the fun part, right? That's what makes Corvettes a good time. But and honestly, you can do a lot of suspension mods to make Corvettes handle certainly better than they came from the factory. They are formidable cars. That's why they are called Corvettes and why they are such a lasting brand.
It's a great performance value.
Yeah, there still is, and I don't know if there will ever be a better bang for the buck than Corvette. And the C5, that's what this is, right? Yeah, this is a C5. This is the generation that I think probably represents the best value because the C6s are still kind of on the downward trend on their depreciation curve. C4s are not powerful enough and aren't modern enough, even though they're super cheap. I think this car represents the best value you can get for performance in almost anything. It's just the only problem is it says Corvette on it and you have to wear a NASCAR jacket. So, I mean, I just, whatever. If you could drive one of these ironically, I think that's the way to rock it. It would be fun to get one of these and put like a Pontiac Firebird decal on the hood and just make it look like a Firebird and then go to, put the whole livery of a Firebird and then roll up to a Corvette, event and have them all just be so like upset and confused. Like that's the bird from a Pontiac. That's the wrong bird. Yeah. What's going, all their 90-year-old brains would just explode. It would be so much fun.
I would add to that you should have the horn from the General Lee. So when you hit the horn, it does that little song.
Yes, little, yeah, exactly. All right. So I'm surprised at the number this thing's bringing because I've seen like the what do you call it? The Indianapolis pace cars go for less than this. I've seen Z06s go for less than this. I don't know why this one is so much more.
This is the special edition. They only made it 1 year. The Indianapolis is just a base Corvette. This is the Z06 with 400 horse. And again, the notchback was to save weight without the rear glass. The carbon fiber hood was supposed to do the same thing over the front axle. So this was the top performing car Chevrolet made up to that point. And so as such, these things do bring a bit of a premium. And this one does. Our car here out of Illinois has the carbon hood. So JP, I think it's at 20 bids on $25,000. I think this car's going to bring 30 grand. So that's my guess.
Yeah, that's a tough one to go over and under because it's certainly going to be within a couple $1,000s of that. So I'm just going to roll the dice and bet the under. I bet the over on 2 other cars today. So maybe you get a sweep today. Did it? What I say? So you said 30, I said 29.
All right, 29.
All right, maybe you get a sweep today. I think it's going to happen. All right, it's going to happen.
Not going to happen. All right, here we go, JP. This is like it's like clearing the throat and bringing up a loogie. I mean, this is.
Woo,
and
look at that.
I want to like this car. I'm going to tell our audience. I'm guessing the reason why JP picked this one family owned 1996 Subaru SVX is because it employs a 3.3 liter flat six. These cars were this Subaru's absolute performance halo flagship car back in the day. It was, like a proper GT. It had interesting technology. It was all-wheel drive. It had Japanese reliability. It still made 230 horsepower and had 240 pound-foot of torque. I mean, this was a very interesting car. But our car has not been well cared for. Despite having just 72,000 miles, it looks like it's got 172,000 miles. The dashboard's coming apart. The airbag stitch in the steering wheel is flapping.
No, look at the airbag. Those are like somebody put screws and washers. I hope there's no actual airbag under that because that's shrapnel if that goes off.
Yeah, that is shrapnel. Yeah, that's a shotgun shell waiting to happen. This is a really strange car offered out of Pendleton, Oregon. Just really ratty condition. I do not like this example of this car. And I struggled last night. I put $3,900. This car got like 4 bids overnight. So I changed my bid to go over $4,000. JP, these were just, you just passed by this. These were $36,000 when they were brand new back in 1996. They came in 2 versions, the L and the LSI. Our car is an LSI, but I don't know what other additional standard features that included, but just imagine that this car has all the bells and whistles that were available back in the day, because Subaru was definitely trying to climb up market with this car, and I commend them for making it. It's just a shame that the car that's on offer here looks like it's been parked outside for the last 25 years. So take it away, man.
Yeah, this thing is just a pile of poo, unfortunately. But look, this car lives in a very weird space and time for automotive history. If you recall, when this car came out in like 90 or whatever, you also had the 300ZX, which was just radical for its time.
Right.
You also had Infiniti as a new brand coming out of Nissan that was competing with Lexus and, of course, Acura. Acura was the first player in the Japanese game that was like, okay, we're going to make luxury cars. So they came out with their new brand. Infiniti came out with their car. If you recall, the
M30.
Yeah, so Infiniti, when they launched their car, they had I don't know if you remember, but they had a commercial during the Super Bowl. They launched the brand for the Super Bowl with a commercial that didn't show a picture of the car, which was like, so people were like, oh my God, they just had some poet, it was like waxing poetic. And then they had a whole campaign with that guy with the accent that just, and he would just walk around, and half the time there wouldn't be a car in the commercial at all. It kind of worked. Exactly. And it's iconic from an advertising point of view. And Subaru was like, we want in on this game. We, Acura, Toyota, and Honda and Nissan are making all this money making these really cool whiz-bang cars. We're going to do that too. We have the technology, all-wheel drive. These guys, and they come out with this car, and it was just like, yeah, okay, you're going radical, but dial it back a step. They went to 11 with the styling of this car, and it was just too much for people to take. They just couldn't handle it.
So JP, based on your little diatribe, do you think, and I don't mean that negatively, but do you think that they should have rebranded this model as a different thing? Like Subaru's Halo brand would have been like, I don't know, something, blank. Should they have named it a different brand? Like, should they have rebranded?
Should they have come out with a luxury line or a higher end line like
and
Nissan?
Then developed this car because this car to me looked like a concept car that you could drive down the street. And again, it was very space age looking in the 90s, but it didn't go anywhere.
Well, yeah, and I think part of the problem with that isn't that the car didn't have potential. If they had changed the styling a little bit, or like you said, made a couple other lines, or had another brand or whatever. But the fact is that Nissan, Honda, and Toyota are 3 of the biggest brands on the planet, and have been since then and before then. Whereas Subaru, look. Honda sells more CRVs than Subaru and Volkswagen sells cars combined.
Right.
So if Subaru wanted to go after that game, they just didn't. There's no way they could have played in that game. They couldn't hang. So they came out with they had one swing. They tried to hit a home run, and if they had hit a home run, it could have launched them that direction. But this car obviously was not a home run. It was really neat, but it just wasn't there. And so many other cars just eclipsed it, like the 300ZX particularly.
Yeah, you make a great point that they didn't have the tooling to scale up to compete with their with who they were swinging at.
Yep.
And so it's interesting. And then some of the other small brands like Isuzu and Mazda have become subsidiaries of other big conglomerates, and so Subaru remains kind of if I understand it correctly, Subaru is still kind of like this boutique brand. And again, they do a lot of other things than make cars, especially like Isuzu. Yeah. But anyway, this was their shot, and it just didn't land.
Didn't make it. And on top of that, it's like they did, unlike car manufacturers like Mitsubishi and Isuzu, they learned from this mistake. And they said, all right, we still kind of think that we can make performance cars that are going to compete with other brands, but we're going to do it on platforms that we already make a gajillion of anyway. So they made a hot Impreza, and they called it a WRX STI. And that car was mad successful. Whereas the other guys just, they kind of fell apart. So, yeah.
Well, it's funny that they went after this high tech thing and didn't work. So then they fell back on the win on Sunday, sell on Monday, and started going. They went sports car racing.
Yeah.
They went rally racing and have been doing well. And they've built a brand around that success. Even though they make practical crossovers for the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, their whole brand is about people who wear North Face and have short butch haircuts. I mean,
exactly. But it's great. They found their identity in outdoor lifestyle, and they've pandered to that, and now they're they stand on their own, and I commend them for that. This car, another, I wouldn't be surprised if this car didn't make it across the street.
This is not Subaru's first delve into the world of wacky. They did have success. Do you remember the Subaru XT? Do you remember that car?
I do, actually.
Yeah, it was like this wedge-looking two-door sports car that
really small.
And they also had an unbelievably iconic TV commercial. And I remember all these commercials because I've in the advertising game. Maybe you guys remember it. But it had, it shows this crazy, and that was, in 1885 or 86. That car was crazy looking for the time. Kind of looked like an MR2, but squished and a little longer. And the thing's like ripping down this dirt farm road, and there's dust behind it. And then they go to the inside, and it's this young, kind of cool 20-something guy. And in the passenger seat is the guy's dad, and he's grizzled, and he's old, and he's obviously a farmer. He's like, son, I thought we agreed that you were going to get a Subaru, something reliable. And the son's like, but dad. And he tips his sunglasses down in his aviators. I did. It was like Subaru XT. It was like, okay, so Subaru had success in this. Huh?
What was that Nissan that we reviewed that you said you could change the bodywork on? You and Rochelle.
The Pulsar NX.
Pulsar.
Yes.
The Subaru, that Subaru reminds me of a more shapely version of that car. Is it not? Yeah.
Kind of. Honestly, actually, it's more like the first the Pulsar NX, the one that had the removable back that you could swap out, and the T-tops was the second gen Pulsar. The first gen Pulsar was much more angular and actually looks a lot like the XT. But the XT was a way cooler car.
Oh man, Radwood called. They want us to make an appearance because we know their car is better than they do.
It's true. Well, guys, we got it. Luckily, that's the last car because the battery on something is ending. I'm getting something flashing at me. So
okay.
Thanks for hanging out. What's that?
I'm gonna say 4,300. Where do you think this SVX is gonna land?
Where's it at now?
35.
$4,000.
$4,000.
This ain't going anywhere. This thing's a hunkish guy. There's another edition of Bid Nerds, your daily nerd on the most interesting cars and bids, and bring a trailer. Make sure you come back and see us tomorrow morning during the 9 o'clock hour. We do this every day, Monday through Friday. Hit subscribe, share this show with your friends. Let them know that we do this every day. We love you guys. Thanks. See you tomorrow.